Well, Nick Collier again here, and we're in the jewelry section of my studio. Well, jewelry and other assorted things. But today, all my job projects are done, or at least to the point to where I can't do it anymore until a certain part shows up, that sort of thing. So I get a chance to come in here. Now it's freezing ass cold out. I don't know if you can see beyond me, but there's a little bit of snow on the ground. I mean, just a little bit here in California. Usually we get more, but hey, there's no global warming. Come on. So anyhow, let's make a piece of jewelry. And I thought maybe what would happen this time, I'm going to make a piece of silver jewelry. And I thought maybe what would happen this time is that I'll make it, and we'll do probably 2 or 3 videos or whatever to get there. And then I'll put it up for sale. All right, well, the first thing we got to do is pick out a stone. And I have a bunch of random stones that I've gathered over the last, I don't know, 40 years. From odd places, oftentimes stone or rock shows or that sort of thing. And we've come up with just these odd shapes, and this is a small selection of what I have. But since I'm doing silver, I'm going to use the less expensive stones. And let's see if we can find something that's going to kind of match with what I want to do. And this piece here looks pretty good. This is a piece of chalcedony. I like that one. That could work out pretty well. What's that? Is that a chip in the top there? Or just a little bit of sponge? Sponge! Yippee! All right, I like this one. Let me bring it in closer so you can see it. Look. Let's drop it on the floor first. All right, let's see what we can do here. Can you see it? Yeah, it's kind of a light lavender color. Pretty consistent in color. And a nice, good, solid, hard stone. Chalcedony is very tough stuff. And I'll show you what chalcedony looks like in the raw. There it is right there. And you can kind of see just a little bit of purple right in here. But, it comes in these kind of molten formations. I'm guessing maybe limestone or something like that that's fossilized. But, so let's take that step and we'll move to the next place. Okay, first thing we have to do is put a bezel cup around it, or some way to hold the stone in place. And I've got this bezel material. It's pure silver, 999. And notice that I'm kind of running my hand and flipping the direction of the arch. And what I'm doing is just smoothing out the actual bezel itself, because it's never quite smooth. So that looks pretty good. Let's get a pair of shears. I swear I've had these for about 30 years. When I bought them, they were real cheap, and I just thought, well, okay, I'll just use them for a year or so, and then they'll die on me, and hell, they're still going strong. I'm going to open my drawer a little bit. And notice how the end is all crimped and messed up. So I'm going to take it back beyond the crimp and cut it as square as I can get it, to perpendicular to the piece itself. So then just take and drop that in over the top of the stone, or around the edge of the stone. And then those of you with fingernails, I kind of bring my thumbnail into the very bottom to hold it, and then just kind of work my way around the stone until I make a big mess out of it. No, of course not. I'm a professional. go. Keep going. A little bit more. And notice how I didn't crush in the top of the bezel, and it could crush in fairly easily. So, basically I kept my fingernail down at the bottom as close to the base as possible where there was strength. Now we're gonna go ahead and mark our piece here. Right there, just with a little scribe line. Have a look and see how close we are. Looks like there's just a bit of a gap out there. So when I cut this, I want to cut it just slightly short of my mark. And where's my mark? There's my mark. So we're looking at, machinist terms, we're looking at 20 thousandths short of the mark. Okay, now what we've got is two matching segments, but the problem is that when you cut it, it makes the end kind of wiggly. So I like to come in with a pair of flat pliers, if I can find a pair. I know I have some. There we go. And just go in and smash that end just to get it square again. Come into the next step, because the shears never cut a total square edge. I come in with the file. See what happened? That stuff is soft. But that's where the pliers come in. Straighten it right out. Just a couple of strikes and do it again. Okay. One more strike. And this is with the fine file. We're just knocking off just that one little raw edge there. And in this case, I didn't get it quite 90 degrees, so I need to kind of bring it back a bit. We're getting there though. That's pretty close. A little bit more. There we go. And I'll be right back. We're going to go over to the, well, actually we could just set this up and then go over there. So it doesn't matter what the outside shape is. That's immaterial at this point. The key is that these two edges square up with one another. And I kind of come in with these pliers and start messing with it a little bit. Something like that. And there's a little bit of spring action on that, and I have the spring so that it compresses against one another so that they're really touching. Now we'll take it over to the welding table and weld that up. All right, well, here we are over in the welding bench. That little line needs to have a little bit of flux on it. So we're gonna bring our handy flux, which, you know, over the years I've tried many fluxes and this one works. This one works great. So I got that particular bottle on eBay. You can also get it at Rio Grande Supply. But I just need a little bottle, and I don't think Rio Grande has this little bottle. So I just bought that, because what happens is after about a year or so, well, yeah, and you don't use that much flux, after a year or so, the flux starts to harden up inside of the bottle, and then you got to mess with it. And this last bottle of flux I had right here, oh, I don't know, it lasted 20 years, and I had to keep breaking it up, and because what happens is it crystallizes. So it's better to buy a small bottle a bunch of times than a large bottle and have it lay around. Okay, so we've got our flux. We're looking for hard solder. Because this is the most difficult, I mean, no, it isn't the most difficult. It is the first operation in any welding, meaning that this is the first time I've welded this piece of metal, or in, you know, if you want to be technical about it, it's the first time I've soldered this piece of metal. But however that plays out, this, and you know, I've just learned over the years just to use the wire, but if you know, if you're just starting out, you don't want to use the wire. Just cut a snippet and put a snippet on there. It takes longer, but it's much more accurate, and you don't end up having a bunch of waste going on. And what I do is I bring in the solder real close, because I want it to be the same temperature as the metal when I get ready to melt. And now I'm just about ready, and just drip in a little bit right there. There we go. I did it. All right. And we will put it in the water for a second. And we're ready to go. Let's go back over to the bench. Okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to try to bring this in close so you can look at it. Let's see if we can get something behind here so that focus will focus on it. But notice the very bottom of that, there is an open, trying to get it to focus. Come on, camera, focus. It opens right there. I didn't quite get enough solder. Well, it wasn't that I didn't have enough solder, it was that this part was just slightly open. And I'm going to do a little drawing of that so you can see it. Let's come up with a pen. So the bezel comes in this way, right? And I cut it, and then I filed it. Remember, I filed it? Well, I didn't quite get it all filed, so that was just slightly. And then when this bezel came in, this side of the bezel came in, it came right up against it, but then it kind of opened up, and I didn't see that. So, mistake on my part, but it's doable. So what happens is I will take that opening and put it down so that the stone, or so that when I weld the bottom to the stone, it will the medium solder will work its way up into that gap and fill the gap. So the way we're going to do that is, so basically we're going to turn the stone around, but it's, you know, the bezel is bezel material is very flexible and very forgiving. You could come in and move it around, and it'll just do what you want it to do, pretty much. And I bring a pair of pliers in and push up against that bottom edge again, just to get it to form to the bottom edge. Oh, you can't see, can you? Let's do it from there. And it looks like there's just a little bit of extra space in there, which I don't like, but if it's just a little bit, it can be dealt with later. Okay, I think we got ourselves a shape. The key is to get the bottom to fit really well. The top doesn't matter, because the top later on will be dealt with very effectively. Get that bottom to fit really well. And then when we take it over to the bench, the bottom wants to stay just like it is as the bottom. Now what I do is I come in and put a flat file against the bottom edge. Let me get my tray opened up and just gently file the bottom until it has squared up. And what we're going to do by doing that, and notice right out here on the edge hasn't quite touched yet, and right here it hasn't touched yet. I don't know if you can see that. But what we're doing now is we're making it flat enough that when we put the medium solder in, because of course this is going to be our second operation, or our second welding operation, the medium solder will flow all the way around without even a problem. Okay, we're almost good on that end. This end needs a little bit more work. Getting there. Notice how I'm kind of catching it from different angles, just so I don't, you know, make a groove in the thing, and so that I maintain a flatness. By the time I get done, this thing's going to be perfectly flat. Looks like we're still just a little weak on that edge there, or on that point there. And of course we've messed up our shape, but it's easy to fix. Plop it right back down on the stone, come back in with a pair of pliers, and round that baby up. And again, we're not concerned about the top edge there. We're only concerned about this connection right here. And I'm seeing, I haven't quite got that bottom. Yeah, there it is. Just had a little shadow there. All right, so now we take this and carefully set it down. We don't want to bend it or anything. And we come up with a piece of 24 gauge. That's a little thin. There's 24 gauge. And drop it in place. Mark it. Something like that. And let's take it over to the shear. Now this could be done on this, you know, a little hand shear or something like that. But since I got this monster, why not use it, right? There we go. And we'll cut that. And clip that off. And we've got ourselves a piece of material. Okay, so we've got our piece of metal, and I'm guessing it's going to go this way. Notice that all my edges are sticking out a little far, and I want them to be out a little far, so when the solder goes in, it kind of floats into that corner and creates a nice bond. So at this point, since I am dealing with, let me move you a little bit. All right, since I am dealing with silver that's been laying around a bit, I come in with steel wool and just kind of freshen the surface. Because silver does tarnish, and this stuff's probably been laying around for, oh, I don't know, 10 years or so. Now, it's a little bit bent, so probably want to just come in and just straighten it up by hand. It's no big deal. Once it starts heating up, and once the solder flows in to around all the edges, literally the metal will slump slightly, and the solder will pull it together. So you don't have to be too careful about how close it is. You were already careful about the surface on that bottom contact edge. So from this point on, who cares? All right, so now we have our two pieces, and at this point you'll probably want to start using the tweezers to take it on and off, because the less you affect that circumference, the more accurate your weld is going to be for later on, you know, when you try to fit the stone in there. And then I just kind of put a gob of flux in there, bring the piece back, and this way, if you're just picking up one corner, there's no way that you can change the shape of it. Drop it in place. And once again, if you're just starting this out, cut a bunch of snippets, drop them inside, push them up against the wall of the bezel, and I'll cut one right now and kind of show you. And you know, one way I cut bezels or cut snippets is I put my finger out on the end, and then the snippet, well, it's supposed to, stabs my finger just slightly and sticks in my finger. In this case, it fell. So we're gonna just drop the snippet in. Come on. Drop, you little sucker. Okay, I'm gonna get this straightened back up again. And then run the snippet up against the edge like that. And in this case, you probably want to do 4 or 5 snippets that size. But since I have a few years in doing this, I'm going to do it the cheater way. Or you could call it the fast way. Warming everything up slowly, and you'll notice, and this is one of the downsides of the snippet issue, is as it starts to warm everything up, the snippet will jump. See how all the water is boiling out right now, and I'm kind of doing it slow enough. The snippet may not jump. Nope, it's not gonna. But out of 4 or 5, you'll have 1 or 2 that'll jump, trust me. Okay, and what I noticed is this has moved in just a little bit, so I'm gonna move it back. Come on. There we go. And how are we doing out on that edge? That looks pretty good. Yeah, I think there's enough. Okay, notice how the flux is starting to get glass-like. And you want to take it up just a little bit beyond that, which will be about 1100 degrees, which is where you want to be with medium solder. Okay. So notice how around the solder it's turned black, like right in that little area there and right inside there. That tells you that the solder is just about ready to melt. And we're going to use that snippet as an indicator. As soon as that snippet melts, I know to bring my piece in and start filling in. And boy, it's almost there. See it? Oh, there it goes. Okay, so now I know, bring my snippet in, or my wire in, and just fill in the edges as much as possible. I mean, it's almost like lead solder, except you're at a much higher temperature. Come on. Can you still see that? Yeah. And it wants to go fast, because if you take your time and you sit here for a long time, what'll happen is the flux will burn away and then it stops doing its flux action. So now what I'm doing is coming in and getting the whole circumference to melt all at once. Can you see it? All of the solder is like chrome colored, and there's one little gap here that didn't take. Okay, that's better. And I think we did it. Looks good. A little bit of cooling action, and let's take it back to the bench. All right, so now we've got ourselves a bezel with a bunch of slash around the outside of it. We come in, we make sure that the stone is going to go in correctly, and of course I welded it on the wrong side. Sure enough, look at that. Okay, well, you know, hey, wrong way there, Nick, that's what they call me. All right, so it's a reasonably easy fix though. Let's go back to the weld. All right, so we have to heat the whole thing back up again. And once we're heated up, we're going to grab it with a compression tweezers and go ahead and heat it. You see the flux starting to kind of get glassy. And just as the metal starts to melt, it's a bit tricky. You got to get all of it to melt. Come on. Well, it's supposed to be easy. Let me put a little more flux around here because I may have burnt off all my flux at this point. Okay, see the solder starting to get all melty, and you sometimes now see I busted it open there. All right, well, you can sometimes it'll work. So we got to go all the way back to the beginning. There we go. That's what I was trying to do. But it's okay. One of the nice things about silver and we just kind of come in and kiss that inside edge one more time. Just a little bit. Put it back together. Squeeze it. It should be squared up. You can set it down. A little more flux. And probably we're going to be able to do this without gotta contaminate a little bit, without adding any solder to it, but we'll see. Did it just move? No. No. Gonna have to add some solder. And I got a little ball sitting right there. Wham! Let's get it to go a little further. There we go. We'll take it back over to the stone and reset the shape, and I will come back in a moment. Okay, so we're all set up once again, this time in the right direction, and we're going to use the same side of the plate because there's so much solder on there already that I don't think we'll need to add too much to it. Come on. So take it right on up, and it should just take without any effort. But just in case, we're going to have a little solder on board just to add a bit to it. That looks good. Maybe a bit down here. A little bit right there. And I think we've done it. Yep. Now it's on the right side, let's hope.